everybody! Thank you for joining us on another episode of Remarkable Spirit, Memories of a Medium. My name is Gabrielle Gardner, and I am a medium. That means that I see, feel, and hear the souls of those who no longer reside in a physical body. They're in the non-physical, or in more traditional terms, they have died. Dying as I have come to know it most definitely is not the end. It is simply the turning of a page after completing a chapter. Today I am excited to share another remarkable spirit with you. This is about the time that I met James, a World War II pilot who is very excited to continue being a protector for many of those around him. He loved to make others laugh. He lit up a room with his charisma and his confidence, and he had a very witty sense of humor, often irritating me during this process I will be sharing with you now. He was brave and he was strong, and his strong spirit continues to protect others. As per James's request, throughout this episode, we will be sharing resources for veterans and their families. My time with James the pilot began long before I ever saw him or spoke with him. This is how it goes with spirits who have been passed for many years, as was the case with James. If they choose to spend time in the in-between space, sometimes getting a clearer and more concise and sharper connection with them takes hours, days, or even weeks to come through. And this is how it started with James the pilot. So I first met James on a chilly spring morning in 2021. I was the only one awake in the house, and I was enjoying the quiet time to myself. I was cutting up an orange in the kitchen when I suddenly felt a searing, sharp pain in the tips of all of my fingers, and I had a chilling image of blood dripping from my fingertips. I dropped the knife and closed my eyes, took a deep breath to get grounded. The pain was gone just as fast as it had come, but I couldn't shake the image of the bleeding fingertips. It was disturbing, and I felt a wave of nausea. I asked my guides to stop the image, and it faded. Later that afternoon, while taking a load of laundry down to the washing machine, I suddenly had that same image flood into my mind, and this time I was able to feel that the pain was actually specific to my fingernail beds. It was even more disturbing. The nausea came again, and I had to set the basket down on the stairs. I was dizzy. It was so strong that I said out loud, "I need you to stop this. I can't help you if you make me sick." And instantly, all the images and sensations stopped. I still had no idea who was making me feel these things or why, but I was beginning to already get impressions that while uncomfortable, it wasn't done with any negative intention. It was just the only way this spirit could get my attention. So this entry is from the next day. These are going to be a few short entries because this is how James could communicate in the beginning. While walking up the front porch stairs, I got a shooting pain in my right shin and right ribs. Because of the way the sensation started and came into my awareness, I knew that it was coming from the same spirit as yesterday. I again said, "You can't communicate this way. What is your name?" And I heard a man's voice say, "They killed my friends too." And then all the feelings faded. I'm sharing these short entries so hopefully that you can get an idea that for souls who aren't necessarily willing in the beginning and are being pushed by guides to communicate, it can be very sporadic. And so then I didn't make another entry for 4 days. And then it said, I have realized that since picking up on the energy of the man in the kitchen and on the porch, I haven't stopped doing this weird thing with my fingers. I feel this urge to push on all my fingernails in a rhythmic pattern, then smooth them all out. It's like self-soothing, and I realized that I was mimicking something that this spirit had done. I also realized that I have been seeing images of airplanes everywhere. My screensaver this morning was an airplane propeller. Yesterday when I turned on the TV, a movie involving planes was on, and the day before that, my music app opened on its own, and a song called The Aviator started playing. They all feel very connected. Spirit often communicates with me and many others through technology. This is very common in our house. I can't even tell you the number of times that The TV will switch to a different program that's directly related to a soul that I'm working with, or their favorite seems to be opening music apps, and they'll play songs that are related to who they were as a person, or especially when it's related to their career. So this is a regular occurrence in our house. And synchronicities when working with spirit are very real. I hope people can see that and remember that. So 2 days later, I made this entry. While in the kitchen making lunch, I felt the energy of the man come into the kitchen by the back door. This time he felt much more present in the room, like he was physically closer. This is something that also happens for souls who have been in between for a while. I started to feel the uncomfortable pains again and just took a stab in the dark based on what he had said before, and I said, "Why did they kill your friends?" I immediately heard, "Because they were ordered to." I said, "Who ordered them to kill you?" He said, "They were done with us and they were out of food." The longer he stayed standing by the back door, the clearer his image got. I could see the brown jacket and dark green pants, and all the plane images I'd been seeing came to mind. I said, "You are a pilot," and then he saluted. I said, "Thank you for your service," and then he was gone. I knew he'd be back soon, and I said, "I need to figure out why he hasn't moved on yet." So this is the next afternoon. I was sitting on the couch watching TV, and suddenly I felt the pilot's energy standing by the front door. And he was even clearer this time. He looked to be in his early to mid-30s, around my dad's height, which is 5'9", and he looks very serious, but his eyes were kind. Unlike a lot of those who come into the house, I instantly felt at ease with him. If anything, he felt protective of me and our home. The second I had that thought, I had flash images of James standing out in the street outside of our kitchen window, looking into the house. And I could tell that he had done this many times before for as long as a year. Sounds creepier than it was. I could tell that he was very, very protective, and that he had stayed around our home with no intentions other than being a guard. I said, "What's your name?" He said, "You can call me James." I said, "Why are you here, James?" He said, "They put me here." I said, "Who put you here?" He said, "Them," and he pointed right at me. And as he pointed, I felt my guide's energy fill the space around me. He looked at me and said, "They said that I could help you." Then he smiled and winked, and he was gone. That was confusing. I could feel that I was supposed to help James move to the next place, so why would my guides tell him that he was going to be helping me? And as I was thinking that, I felt Yona come in, and Yona is my guide who helps me with readings. She stepped forward and said, "He is a protector by nature, and he wants to protect. He is looking for purpose, and he has the ability to do so. Let him do his job as the protector for you and others. Help him release his pain tomorrow, and he will be with you as a protector for many days to come." So I was very shocked by that message. My guide has never said something so clear about a soul that I would be working with. And what I understood by that was that James had the potential to become a guide as soon as he transitioned to the next place. So this is the final entry with James. I woke up that next morning knowing that it was time for James to let go of the pain that he was carrying, so that he could continue on his path. I walked out into the dining room and I saw James sitting in one of the chairs at the table. And he said, "So I guess this is my party, huh?" I said, "Yep, but you're going to need to let some of the heavier stuff go before that." He said, "What do you mean? I'm light as a feather." And he blew out a big puff of smoke, and I smelled tobacco and cigar smoke in the room. James was one of the most casual souls I've ever worked with on a crossing. It's still true. I sat down at the table and I looked him in the eye and said, "You have to take this part seriously." And he smiled and winked again, and he said, "Or maybe you just need to lighten up." I said, "You wouldn't be here if you weren't ready. I know it's hard, and I'm sorry that they killed your friends." He looked down and his face became very serious. He said, "It was my fault." I began to feel the body pains and feelings in my fingernails again. I said, "I'm sorry they hurt you too." He didn't look up, and he just shrugged his shoulders, and then he was gone. I could feel he wasn't far, still just somewhere in the house, and he just needed to take a break to keep processing. I started to gather the materials for the healing grid and brought them back out to the table. Suddenly my head was filled with flashes of gruesome images of sticks being shoved under a man's fingernails and large sticks hitting another man in military uniform, and I heard screaming and gunshots. I smelled dirt and blood and felt fear and pain. I knew I was seeing what James had seen and felt. It was clear then that James had been a POW, and he had died while in captivity along with many others. As soon as I understood this, I felt James standing next to me. His energy felt sad, and I knew he knew I had seen. He said, "I let them down." Wow. I said, "James, you did everything that you could to protect your country. You did enough. And now you're going to keep protecting others if that's what you want to do." He said, "They took my body from me." My head was then filled with flashes of beatings, and then I heard a gunshot, and I saw the image of James in spirit standing over his broken body that had been tossed into a pile with others. Those images made me nauseous, and I could feel that some of James's hang-up on not moving to the next place was his anger and sadness that his body had not been cared for or found. Sometimes souls have a hard time of letting go of their body. They have a body trauma response, especially when they were someone who loved their time in body, or their body was vital to who they were in this lifetime. It can be very jarring and unsettling at a core level when they see it disrespected or lost. Sometimes body trauma at death needs to be processed before a soul is ready to move to the next place, and this is what James was experiencing. I said, "I'm sorry, James. They shouldn't have hurt you like that. But that body isn't you. This is you." And I pointed right at him. He said, "I know, but it wasn't right." And I said, "You're right. It wasn't. What they did was unforgivable. But it's war. It won't ever be right. It won't ever make sense. But you died fighting for what you believed in. You died with honor. You died respected by your friends. You did what you felt you needed to do, and you died protecting this country so that those you love can have their freedom. You didn't let them down. You did protect us." And as we had this conversation, the energy in the entire room shifted, and it felt lighter and brighter. It felt like the light was physically getting brighter, and I felt his energy lifting. I finished the grid as he stood next to the table watching everything that I did, and I felt the guides come in and knew that it was his time. Just before, James looked down at his hands and he kept turning them over and over, looking at them. And then he looked down at his legs and started touching around his knees. I knew I couldn't see what he was feeling, but my guess is that he was integrating some of the body trauma he had experienced and that he was feeling his energy becoming more whole in spirit. Then he looked past me and there was a flash of light. But when I opened my eyes, James was still standing there, and I felt my guide Yona standing next to me. She said, "James has decided to stay here with you and others during the times that protection is needed. This is the role he has chosen at this time." James smiled and winked, and then he flexed his arms in like a muscle man pose. And he said, "I thought you could use a little muscle around here." And then he was gone. So what I now understand is that James had needed to let go of the body trauma that he had experienced as a POW. But he was so fiercely protective that he was given the opportunity to immediately become a guide as soon as he transitioned. And so he both chose and was chosen to become a guide for us here on the earth plane. And I now see James occasionally here around the house when I do need a little bit of help in fortifying my boundaries, my energetic boundaries, and the space in our home. And he'll show up here, and he does just that. He's very protective, but he's a gentle protector. It has been an honor connecting with James and continuing to know James the pilot, who is now James the guide. Please take a moment to see how you can help veterans and their families. And if you have served, we thank you for your service. James, Hannah, Derek, Julia, John, and Lynn. These are just a few of the remarkable souls that I have had the privilege of meeting and working with in my journey with Spirit. And I'm glad that you know them now too. Once you see violence up close, like that which most of these remarkable souls experienced, it changes you. In these memories and these experiences that I have of my energy being pulled to places and rooms full of violence and torture and death, I hated them for a long time, and I did my best to get rid of these images that are stuck. But now I think my attitude towards them has changed. I'm grateful to have been in those moments with all of those remarkable souls. And I am so grateful to have met each one of them. I'm grateful to be able to tell their stories to you. And I'm grateful to have seen and experienced things that lit a fire in me. Because that's what happened. There's now this flame burning that is this, I don't ever see it being extinguished. It's a motivating, burning desire to make change, to reduce suffering, to add joy, to heal, and to find new and better ways to do this life. I will not let these deaths that I witness be in vain. These memories of the ugly parts of humanity and the most beautiful parts of Spirit have made me who I am today. And they have changed me. They have made me want to do whatever can be done to reduce suffering and continue this work with Spirit. I can't see any other way at this point. And now I'm sharing these memories with you. And I hope that they light a fire in you too, to make a difference, to help those who need help, to give a voice to the voiceless, a name to the nameless, safety to those who are in danger, and freedom to those who are fighting for exactly that. There is power in numbers, and collectively we will make a difference. We'll stand up and say we do not accept that which has been happening. And we now choose a new and better way to do this life. I think that seeing violence and cruelty has changed my scale of how I see and feel and experience this life. But it's not how you would expect. It's changed it for the better. I now value so much about this life, and I see that I'm surrounded by so much good. I see so much good in this world, and I have a warm home and access to fresh food and clean water, and I have family and friends who I love, and I see what a blessing this is and how rare it is to have all of these things. And this world is full of violence and darkness and pain and ugly acts, but we cannot get lost in that. Because this world is also full of remarkable kindness and joy and heroes of all shapes and sizes. And I want to make sure that I'm advocating for the things that I love rather than focusing on what I hate. So let's focus on adding more kindness and adding more joy and adding more love, because that is how this world will become a better place. This world, it is full of beautiful people who go out of their way to make others smile, to make others feel safe, and to make others feel loved. And that is what I choose to focus on. I will do everything I can to give a voice to those who I meet, and I will use this platform to promote causes that reduce suffering for as long as I can. But what I will not do is get drawn down into the pits of darkness and back alleys of humanity by focusing on the negativity. You cannot ever reduce negativity by adding more negativity to it. So instead, Let's focus on all of the good things that happen all around us every single day. We live in a beautiful world full of beautiful people, and we are living a life that is meant to be enjoyed and filled with good things and light. So spend your energy on helping others whenever you can. But be sure that you are always able to see the good that is all around us, because it's there. Spirit shows it to us daily. So remember Hannah and Julia and Derek and James and John and Lynn, and remember the challenges that they faced, but focus on the joy that they feel now. And know that they want their story shared to motivate you to make sure that things like these don't happen again. And they help us and they give us perspective on how amazing this life is. So live this life fully. This life is remarkable. The souls that we meet who love us and impact us are remarkable, and you are remarkable. Spirit is remarkable. As always, I am humbled and I am honored to be able to do this work, and I am eternally grateful to the guides and the angels and the source from which we all came. Remember that Spirit is amazing, and you are amazing, and we're living in an amazing world. My name is Gabrielle Gardner, and this has been another episode of Remarkable Spirit. Thank you for joining us.